Hi, are you looking for something to bridge that gap between quick lookups on your smartphone and maybe more complicated and sophisticated work you might be doing on a desktop workstation? In this video, I am going to suggest to you what I think is the best solution, and that is having a Microsoft Surface Pro. I have in front of me 3 Surface Pros from 3 different generations that I own and have used. I'm going to talk a little bit about how I use them and the benefits they've provided, show you some of the upsides and downsides of each one, and maybe some of the pitfalls to watch for if you have one. And finally, I'm going to share a little bit about my credentials that give me the credibility to have this discussion with you about what computer to pick and how to use it. Follow along with me as I cover those points and give you a little bit better idea of how a Surface Pro might fit into the things that you're doing. Let's get started. Watching the video up to this point, you may be saying to yourself, well, here's that guy from New Venture New Day, builds decks and fixes walls and installs tile. What exactly does he know about computers, and why should I even listen to him? Well, here are a few of my credentials in dealing with computers. Many, many years ago in the late 1970s, while I was attending the School of Business at one of our state universities, I started out using the punch cards to do Fortran programming in the computer science department. And eventually, after graduation and back working full-time at a large manufacturing facility in the early to mid-1980s, I had the opportunity to help start an IT department in that facility and get things going from the ground floor, working at first with the terminals provided from an IBM mainframe by the corporate office to bringing PCs in the door, starting with the old Apple IIe and the original IBM PC with not 1 but 2 floppy disk drives. And we took it from there and built a facility-wide network that integrated both PLC controls and other manufacturing monitoring devices into the computer network for data collection, till eventually we had one of the state-of-the-art computer networks in that type of manufacturing facility, which I was the IT manager for up until the time I retired about 3 years ago. So I've had plenty of experience with all sorts of generations and varieties of personal computers, and I have overseen the implementation and use of the Surface Pro within our business, with various people using them for their day-to-day work, especially those people that were on the road frequently. I have a network set up here at home that we use for a variety of things, and that has for the last several years included these Surface Pros. And this Surface Pro right here, which I am retiring and giving to one of the grandkids to use for looking things up on the internet. I acquired this back in January of 2017, preparing to do some traveling and just some work around the house where I needed something portable. I was tired of dealing with what I had been using, and those were larger latitude Dell notebook computers, a little bit heavy at the time. I also tried for a while using an Android tablet, and I bought a small Asus, very light and portable laptop. And I decided that after I got this was the way to go. This computer itself went with me to Germany and traveled around the country, never missed a lick, even in areas where the Wi-Fi wasn't always the best. I was able to stay in touch with work and get things done. You probably wouldn't buy one like this anymore. It has an Intel i5 processor. It's only a 6th generation, will not support Windows 11, so it is stuck at Windows 10. But it does have 4 gig of RAM and 128 gigabyte of storage. And with that, I was able to get a lot done. And I was using this computer up in the shed regularly to look things up on the internet up until late last summer. It's been a real workhorse. It's never missed a beat. I had one keyboard fail at the connection point here. Those will tend to give out. There are little pins that connect to the unit itself. So I can't really hang that on the computer. The Surface Pro worked great, still working great. The grandkids are going to use it just as a tablet now without the keyboard. When I used it up in the shed, I attached to a large monitor on the wall using what is called a mini DP port to the HDMI. And it had a full-size USB port on it, and of course the charger, which I've got hooked up to it right now. Very good image yet, very clean screen. It's had very good battery life over the years, and I can get most of a day out of it using it off and on. It's been a great little device for me, but it was time finally to move on to something a little more powerful and get myself up to Windows 11. And that brings us to the next one. That next one is a Surface Pro 7 with Windows 11 Pro on it. My wife got me this about 3.5 years later in July of 2020 because I was doing some things where I needed just a little bit more horsepower out of the computer. And these seemed to be just the thing to get that done. So I was very impressed. Again, same 12.3-inch screen as the original one that I had, but this one now had a 10th generation i7 Intel processor on it. And that was very fast, and actually is still pretty fast, 16 gig of RAM and 256 gigabyte drive. Now the 256 gigabyte of storage turns out was becoming a liability. There were some things that I needed to store that I couldn't when I was doing some in-between things where I wasn't going to upload it to the cloud or to the server I have here at home. So we were prompted to replace it, but other than that, I've had no issues with this computer. Once in a while, you just have to, like with anything, go through and clean some things up. You get some things installed here that start to dog it down. Use the right utilities, you can clean that up, clean up the drives, and everything's back in running order. And the other issue that this and the other one have run into are periodic conflicts with not only updates from the software I'm running on it, but also sometimes after a big Microsoft Windows update, there'll be something that doesn't quite click with the other software, and seems like a week or two later, everything seems to iron out. Again, I don't think that's a fault of the Surface Pro. All in all, it still keeps running well, and I'm very satisfied with it. This one as well took a tour through Germany with me for 3 weeks. My wife and I were driving around Germany in 2023, and once again, it worked flawlessly. I had no problem anywhere that I was using the Wi-Fi that was available and uploading things that I needed to the cloud. This worked really great, stored a lot of images for me until I could get them pulled off and uploaded to something. It's been a real workhorse, and now it is going to be the one working up in the shed, getting the job done up there for me when I'm working on projects. Something to note as far as connectivity, and the big change on this one is now I have a standard USB port and they put in a USB-C port. I had to buy a video adapter, USB-C to HDMI, in order to drive a monitor, and we do that once in a while. We go to meetings where we're doing some public service stuff with a group and having Zoom meetings, and I need to connect it to a screen so everybody can watch it during the Zoom meeting. And then the USB port, I plug in a camera that I have. I set on top of the TV so we can see the entire room. But with those two ports, I was able to get the job done. That brings us now to Surface Pro number 3 for me. Picked this up in April of 2025. Same story. It was time to do an upgrade because what I had wasn't quite everything I needed to get the job done. I've got some traveling coming up where I wanted to be sure I had a Surface Pro or a computer that had a little bit more storage space on it, a little more speed, a little more connectivity capability to it. The Surface Pro 11 comes with some better features on it, like a faster processor that uses less power. The Intel processor on these consumer units has been replaced with a Qualcomm, and what I happen to have is the Snapdragon Elite processor. They have a slightly slower processor than that. The Intel i7 processors are still available for the higher end business units at a considerably higher cost. So far what I've seen looking at reviews myself, there haven't been any issues with the Sapphire. I did have one piece of legacy software, and that's the diagnostic software I use to check the vehicles. That has to be run in compatibility mode. Other than that, no issues running the standard Microsoft Office programs and anything else that I have on here. Can't complain about it at all. It's supposed to use less power, and it seems to be. I tested this for a 24-hour period using it intermittently, starting from a full charge, and it took it down to about a 28% charge. That's a lot better than the old units used to be. And I also went from the storage, 256 gigabyte storage, jumped that up to 1 terabyte of storage. Probably don't need 1 terabyte, but I certainly wanted more because traveling a little bit more in Europe, there'll be periods of time when I won't have fast enough Wi-Fi available to upload videos, high-resolution videos that I take up to the cloud to get them stored safely. So in the meantime, I'll keep them on here or take them off on the thumb drives. So I wanted just a little bit more storage, but again, that's not a fault of the Surface Pro. It's just a function of how big a drive you get on the unit. Otherwise, I have the same 16 gigabyte of RAM. That's never been an issue with the other one. As far as processing capability, I'm able to do what I do. I use Microsoft Office applications on here, and the rest of the time I'm doing things on Chrome or I'm watching other YouTube videos. And sometimes Google, depending on how much stuff you've got loaded or what you're doing, can bog things down. I haven't seen that issue with this one at all, and I really didn't see much of that with the Surface Pro 7 unit. The keyboard on the Surface Pro 11 has changed from the keyboards used on previous Surface Pros. Those had that, as I mentioned earlier, multiple spring-loaded pin setup that attached to the tablet unit. That's gone. The new keyboards just have a couple of plugs that attach into a matching socket here on the tablet unit. This case, I did not get the Flex keyboard that's available. The Flex keyboard, once fully charged, could be detached from the tablet unit and used remotely like a wireless keyboard on any other computer. I didn't see that I needed that function, so I just got the basic Pro keyboard. The change in keys on this keyboard from previous ones is that the Copilot function has been added directly to the keyboard, the AI function available with Microsoft Windows. I haven't used that key yet, but that is the direction they are headed with Microsoft, as with many other people, having AI available. Well, that's something to watch for with the keyboard. The Surface Pro 11, you're going to need to buy a keyboard with it as well if that's what you want to have, if you don't want to use it just as a tablet. The old keyboards will not work. Again, I had a pen with one of the older ones. I didn't find that to be a big deal. I really don't use the pen. The one that came with this one works. It's not something I typically use. I just use the touch screen and the keyboard to get the work done that I'm trying to do. The power on this one, same kind of power adapter. So if you've got extra power adapter, you're all set there. But they moved the ports to this side, and now it is simply 2 USB-C ports on here. So I had to make an adjustment in order to use the standard USB camera that I have. I had to use one of these standard USB to USB-C adapters. I have a couple of those around, so that's not a problem. I have to plug that in and then attach the camera to that for the meetings that we have. And then the other USB-C port, again, that's working just fine. For the video adapter I have that goes from USB-C to HDMI. All in all, I am very satisfied with this, and one point that I really enjoyed with the new Surface Pro, getting it set up. I have set many computers up out of the box or supervised the assembly of computers when we get new ones, and I have configured computers. I have programmed computers in the past, but that's not what I love doing. I love doing a lot of other things. What I really appreciate about computers is the functionality they provide, the utility they provide to get things done. To me, that's what's important. Finding something that can get the job done for you, get it done reliably, and get it done quickly. And this one was one of the easiest I've had to set up. I just plugged it in. It saw the backup of the system from the Surface Pro 7 on the cloud using OneDrive, brought this thing down, and it was basically configured, including the desktop image. All I had to do was reload some of the software for the extra programs that are on it, but the placeholders were here for the programs that I had. It was very seamless, very fast. I really enjoyed the setup with this brand new Surface Pro 11. If you gained something from this video, learned something about the Surface Pro 11, and got some questions answered or gave you some direction, well then I appreciate if you would click like and consider subscribing to our channel to watch for more videos come out. I'm going to try to do more small review videos of things that I use, in addition to the DIY videos that I'll probably continue doing into the future. With that, once again, enjoy your projects and take care. Thanks for watching.